Everyone, Brandon Polnick here. People always be asking me what I got tied on. I'm like, X-Zone lures. And they're like, Brandon, why you got X-Zone lures tied on? And I'm like, let me show you why.
The bite.
Get out of there! Get out of there! Oh, yeah! Oh, it's freaking big. Get in here! Oh, God. Giant. Oh, my gosh! Oh, my gosh!
I think you get the point.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 26 of the JD Outdoors podcast. Follow me on Instagram at JD_outdoors1773. Today, my guest will be brand manager of Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, Adam Freeman. You can follow him on Instagram at Freeman_Brits. And today, we will be talking about his career in the outdoor industry. How you doing today?
Hey, Jordan, pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. So let's dive right in. How did you get and where did you get your start as an outdoorsman?
Yeah, so I think, like most of us, started very young. As you know, I grew up in Western New York, not far from you, and started on the Great Lakes and the Finger Lakes area there. Hunted a family farm in Pennsylvania, and my dad really got me involved at an early age. And then as I grew, you'll hear me talking about this a lot today, but had some mentors in the outdoor industry take me under their wing and kind of pushed me along and kind of grew, helped me grow in the outdoor industry. One, I know that you know, and you had as a host, Scott Gald. So in high school, one of the first days of class, Scott, Mr. Gald, however you want to say there, Scott, he did this little index card thing and kind of tell me about yourself. And I put down, like fishing and hunting. He's like, hey, kid, let's talk about this a little bit here, after class. And ended up taking me under his wing. And we did quite a bit in the fishing world, bass tournaments and steelhead fishing and things like that around the Great Lakes. Like I said, started young, but really relied on mentors. And there's quite a few mentors I've had, and not only in the outdoor industry, but baseball and work and my career and things like that. So you hear me talking about that a lot today, but I think that's a critical role to grow in the outdoor industry, but to help others as well, get into the outdoor industry. So, that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah, and I got my start very similarly. My dad got me into it, but then once I met Scott Gall, it kind of just really took off from there, and I got into bass fishing full force from him. So we both both can thank him for our, I guess, increasing our addictions in the outdoors.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I want to pay it forward too. They help us grow, and I certainly want to help out the younger generation and grow in the industry as well. So paying it forward, I think, is going to be critical, especially, over the last 10 years. The participation in the outdoor industry has gone down significantly. This past year, it grew just because of the COVID and everything like that. It's the only thing you can do is get in the outdoors. But, other than that, it's been on the decline. So I think it's extremely important to rely on others to help you, but also pay it forward too and get people involved as well. And so, that's kind of where I'm at with that. But we can get into more conversations on how do you go about doing that. I know that you're involved. Go ahead.
In your opinion, why do you think it's gone down in the last 10 years, the involvement and participation?
Yeah, I just think there's so many activities these days that kids are doing, between sports and video games and all this extra stuff out there in the world that it kind of derails them a little bit from the outdoors. I think that's one. I think that, knowledge of public lands decreasing as well and getting that opportunity. Out west where I was in City, Nebraska, I'm now in Missouri, but public lands is something that they're trying to do a really good job at bringing those back and giving opportunities, but it's difficult, and look at New York. Some of those streams and rivers that we fish are kind of shutting down a little bit with some access points and things like that. So I think public lands is another area. But a lot of Department Game and Fish are doing a good job at trying to bring those back. So they understand the importance there. But yeah, I think just that recruiting aspect of it has gone down too. There's a movement in the outdoor industry called the R3 project right now. It has to do with retention, recruiting, and I think it's a great thing to review and to look at. But just recruiting and getting people involved from that mentorship side is critical as well. So
yeah, everyone I think needs at least one mentor to kind of get them going in the right direction to begin with, and someone they can ask questions to, because in fishing, hunting, camping, there's unlimited questions you could ask and things to learn. So yeah, it's very important to have a good mentor there. Could you tell me a little bit about your career in the outdoor industry, how you got started and what your path has been?
Yeah, so you probably have a lot of high school and college listeners on this podcast, and hopefully I can help out with some advice to them. But I went to North Tonawanda just like you, and I was kind of lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea there was even jobs in the outdoor industry. Like, what is that industry all about? Going back to the high school days, I had an option. I had two electives, right? You could either take art or music at NT there. And I'm like, oh, I'll do art, I guess, and I found out I was decent at it. Right. But I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I knew I could go into class and probably get a good grade and do a decent job there, but that's all it was in high school. It wasn't like, what am I going to do as my future, So, I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do either. I went for art and design and marketing. And just because I knew I was decent at it, I got good grades in those classes, right? Probably the only classes I got good grades in. But so I went to a junior college in Rochester, New York, called Monroe Community College, and did some art classes there, played baseball for them there, and learned, but still didn't really know what I wanted to do. But let me back up. This is a funny story. So the first time I knew that there was jobs in the outdoor industry where kind of a light went on in my head was in North Tonawanda. I think it was my sophomore year or junior year. I had this photo of a steelhead I caught down the lower Niagara River, and I had the Cabela's, I think they're like 3mm, 5mm waders on, and the photo, just the Cabela's logo was super bright on that wader. So I submitted a letter. I'm like, hey, if you want to use this, go ahead. These are great waders. Wear them in the lower Niagaras, 0-degree temperatures, whatever. Mm-hmm. And an art director called me and said, hey, we want to use your testimonial in the catalog. I'm like, what's an art director? Who are you? What do? You design these catalogs that I get in the mail? Like, this is cool, So that was the first time where I was like, huh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So that was my first, thought of being in the outdoor industry. So then I went to college, Monroe. I went to an art school down in Savannah, Georgia, Savannah College of Art and Design. And while I was at Savannah College of Art and Design, it was my junior year. I'm like, okay, it's time to become an adult now. I got to venture out here in a couple of years here to the real world. And I wrote a bunch of letters for internships to all these different outdoor companies. And I remember like it was yesterday. I was playing baseball down there. I was in West Palm Beach, and I got a call in my hotel room down there from Cabela's saying, "Hey, we have an opening for you in the web department, doing some web design work." And that really just got my foot in the door. Back then there wasn't as many networking avenues as there is today. Yeah, there was Facebook and stuff like that, but not as intense as it was today. And this was, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago now. I got my foot in the door by just a letter, right? And I think a lot of people think, I can never get in the outdoor industry. That's such a cool industry. I can't do that. And, but there's so many opportunities, and all it took for me was a letter, right? And I got my foot in the door at Cabela's. So worked there for a while, went back to school, graduated. Obviously, it was my junior year. Tried to get in after I graduated, but I couldn't because it was 2008. It was a really tough time to get a job in the outdoor industry anywhere. To get a job. So I knew I wanted to be out west. They're based out of Sidney, Nebraska, out in western Nebraska in the Panhandle there. And I knew I wanted to get back out west. So I took a job with a company called Sierra Trading Post, another outdoor company located in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Great company to work for, but I took an very entry level job there out of college. And that's some advice I would give to somebody is don't expect a management job right out of college. I get that a lot when I look at resumes and things like that or interview people. Get your foot in the door any way possible. And that's what I did there. So got that internship, got my foot in the door at Sierra Trading Post, grew there, worked there for 5 years. I was an art director there. I ran the video department there, did a lot of content for them, and then found an opportunity to get back in with Cabela's 5 years later as I built up my resume and got some experience. And I took a job with the part of the business called Cabela's Outdoor Ventures. It was a really cool, fun job I had there. I was a marketing manager for them. And what they did was a booking agency for all these hunting and fishing locations, outfitters across the world. So I was able to sell that product to people looking for a hunting and fishing trip. So that was a great job. I got to travel a lot, travel all over the world for that one, hunting and fishing and doing that marketing work for them. From there, as many of your listeners probably know, Cabela's was purchased by Bass Pro Shops. So we went through a time there where there were some, they called it strategic alternatives, right? When the activist investor got involved, and they sold that part of the business off after 2 years of working there. It's known right now as Worldwide Trophy Adventures. Nothing's really changed at all with it. It's still based out of Sydney, Nebraska. Just a new owner, Mark Peterson, owns it. But when that took place, I wanted to stay with Cabela's, and I took a job as the brand manager of Cabela's, working on our brands and making sure that brands communicated properly and cohesively across the organization. And then when the merger happened, I moved over to Springfield, Missouri, and now I'm working for Bass Pro Shops in a similar role as a brand manager here. So that is my quick version of my career in the outdoor industry.
Well, thank you. So more specifically, what do you do now at Bass Pro Shops? I know you just touched on it a little bit, but kind of for people who haven't heard of that position, as you hadn't heard of the art director position, what does that position entail?
Yeah, so like I said, I was a brand manager at Cabela's. So when you think of Cabela's, it was a brand, I call it a brand house, right? It was one brand that I had to focus on as an art director or as a brand manager. And what that job entails was I worked with some of the top agencies across the country. I mainly worked with an agency called Ogilvy and Mather out of New York. And I also worked with some production agencies called Rock House Motion.
Yeah.
That would shoot all the content for us. If you don't know Rock House, I would look them up. They got some really powerful stuff happening right now in the outdoor industry from a video standpoint. So I would work with them. I would, and we would try to drive, or we would drive the main campaigns and branding for Cabela's, right? So when you think of Cabela's, the one campaign you may be aware of, it's called It's in Your Nature. So that was, my team working closely with those agencies to make sure that they are communicating properly, they're using the right tone, they're targeting the right customer, positioning, all that good stuff is happening for that brand. And then in turn, we create style guides and make sure our organization is communicating that brand properly across the organization and cohesively across the organization. But that was a lot of fun there, being able to work with those agencies and the production house within Rock House Motion. So from there, now I'm the brand manager at Bass Pro Shops, which is completely different.
Oh, okay.
In some ways, right? So when you think of Cabela's, it's a brand house, right? One brand for the most part. Now I'm at Bass Pro Shops, where it's a house of brands, right? So many people might not know this, but Bass Pro Shops, they treat their brands differently. I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but they have, 20, 30 in-house brands, right? So when you think of Redhead and Ascend and Eclipse and Natural Reflections and Johnny Morris rods and reels and all these different brands, and then let alone all the boat brands, right? So you got Tractor and Nitro and Ranger and all these boat brands, Mako and all that. So now I'm the brand manager looking over all these brands rather than just one brand. So it's a challenging job, but a lot of fun, right? So understand the audience and positioning and building out style guides, making sure the team is cohesively communicating that message using the proper fonts and logos but within that job, what I like about it is I work very closely with a lot of areas within creative and marketing, right? So, when photography is going to do a photo shoot for one of our brands, I got to make sure that they're staying on brand and they understand the brand and our target audience. And, so there's a lot of metrics and analytics and things like that as well as the creative side of the business. So making sure that they're staying on brand and understanding all that. So, so that's what I do.
Yeah.
A quick version of a brand manager. So
that's cool that you can still be in touch with the art side of things as well, because that's something that intrigues me about the outdoor industry. Is like, I remember when we met a few years ago, you were showing me that new video you guys had just done for Cabela's with where the logo was the center of everything and like just the shots behind basically changed. And that was pretty cool to me. And I love seeing stuff like that because that's how you grab everyone's attention. So, because I've seen countless commercials for Cabela's and Bass Pro on TV, and it's awesome to know someone who was a part of making that happen, because you don't really think about it when you're watching it, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, exactly. And not just our brands we focus on, but also the campaigns. We have Spring Fishing Classic coming up. So that artwork that's happening for Spring Fishing Classic, I had a part in, and making sure that's executed properly. Fall Hunting Classic, these different retail events as well. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun, and you touch, a lot of different teams, right? So, not only, I get the branding side, but I talk with the digital side and I have an understanding of that, and the video side and the copywriting side and the photography side. You communicate with all these teams, and it really helps me out too with an understanding of the overall business, not just a segment or two. So, it's a lot of fun, and it all started with that one letter, right? So, so that's
pretty awesome. And so something that we talked about earlier that would be interesting to kind of hear from you as someone who's been in the outdoor industry so long, but what are some of the career paths that someone could go down in the outdoor industry?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I had no idea when I was in high school and college of what I wanted to do and what was out there. So within the marketing side of the business, we have we have art directors we have marketing and we have creative at Bass Pro Shops. On the marketing side, there's a lot of analytical work and understanding our customer and looking at sales metrics and keeping track on all the different events that we have and promotions and all that going on. Then you have the creative side of the business, which would be the art directors and copywriters and production artists and graphic designers and photography and video and all those areas of the business have different segments of them too, right? So when you get into video, you have editors and shooters and so there's a lot of opportunities. I don't think a lot of people understand within the outdoor industry that you could get involved with, right? Depending on what your passion is. And that's just the marketing side. Then you have the merchandising side, the buyers and the product developers and, and then you have logistics and all, there's so much going on. So that there's definitely opportunities, for that. And that's just at Bass Pro and Cabela's.
That doesn't even include all
opportunities. Yeah. So, you know, I'm not trying to be an HR human resources person here looking for people, but like, you know, if you are thinking about the outdoor industry, go on the careers page, look at the different job titles that we have. Um, you know, it might help you out as you go through college and things like that on trying to find your way in the outdoor industry. So,
Yeah, and I think that's uh, super interesting with the product development side of things that you just mentioned. I think that that would be a super cool job, being able to, you know, literally help design these products that so many people use every single day. That's having a huge impact on the industry for sure, which that's pretty neat.
yeah, all our in-house brands, obviously, those products are designed by us, and
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that whole side of the business is huge, and something that's really exciting to have our own in-house branded products. And you know, and people might not think. I mean, I didn't mention that we have a social media team here, right? You
Yeah.
know, that manages our Facebook and Twitter and YouTube accounts and things like that too. So you know, for that younger audience that you know, doesn't know their way, but they have a Facebook account, you know, you can even get involved with that at this organization. There might even be a few job openings right now on that. So, um, but yeah, there's something for everyone here for sure. Um, you know, we love it too. You know, not a requirement, but you know, if you are an avid outdoorsman, woman too, this is just a plus, right? And
Yeah.
it's just so cool because what I tell people, you know, you have a great job. I'm like, yeah, I do. You know, Jim and Dick Cabela said this during Cabela's when I was there, but it's like, we sell fun, you know,
Yeah.
and that's what's about, right? I don't sell vacuum cleaners or whatever, you know, I sell fun and sell kayaks and, you know, fishing rods and things like that. So it's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, that's for sure. And yeah, like you said, you're not selling vacuum cleaners, so that's not really something that, well, hey, some people might get a little excited over a new vacuum cleaner, but something, you know, like a fishing rod where you can catch hundreds and hundreds of fish on it, that's just something that keeps reproducing the fun over and over and over again.
exactly. Yeah.
So from there, let's kind of talk about the advice that you would have for someone looking to get into the outdoor industry, whether it's someone my age or, you know, a little younger, a little older.
Yeah. I think I hit on some of these, but I'll reiterate it too. So, um, you know, I said it early, that mentorship thing I'm a huge believer in that. Um, get mentors in your life that know more than you, that could help guide you. Like I said, I had mentors in the outdoor industry like Scott Gall, but I also have mentors here at work too, you know, and they're open to talking and helping you grow, especially in the outdoor industry. Who doesn't want to talk hunting and fishing and help people out in that? So that's important. Um, you know, networking and just communicating. Like I said, it started with a letter, right? That's all I did. So um, talk to people, get as much information, just flood yourself with information, with how to grow in the industry. Do it, live it, right? If you want to get in the outdoor industry, hunt, fish, get consumed by it, right? Get as much knowledge in your brain as you possibly can. You know, and then, you know, don't just get your foot in the door too, right? Like, don't look for that huge job. I see too many people wanting that big job right out of college. Just get your foot in the door, and if you have the passion, you're going to grow with that company quick, right? I took that entry level job at Sierra Trading Post, but within 6 months I was at a new level, and just kept growing, and I grew fairly quick there, and I was able to build my resume. So any job that comes across in the outdoor industry, even if it's not paying anything, right, take it and build that resume and get that experience. And that's what I did. I believe that's how I got to where I am today, you know, like that.
So do you have any specific, so for more so for a college student or maybe a high school student going into college and they're trying to figure out what they want to major in, are there any majors, and obviously not specifically to like fishing or hunting, but more so just something that could help you in the outdoor industry to land a job once you decide you want to go down that route?
Yeah, I would. you know, like I said, going to that career page and just understanding what jobs are out there in the outdoor industry could help you, right? For me in high school, I had art or music, right? And I picked the art side. So I kind of leaned towards the marketing design part of that. Um, that's just my experience, but just understanding all those jobs, like I mentioned in the outdoor industry, I think would be helpful. And you can, just Google it or go on our careers page and see all those, and then, read the descriptions and see what's interesting, and then pick a career path off that. That's kind of, what I did there. So,
Okay.
um, but yeah, there's a ton of opportunities to just get your foot in the door one way or another, and then you'll be set, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I didn't tell I got a funny story that talking about getting my foot in the door. So wrote that letter, got an internship at Cabela's. I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was I was going to work for Cabela's. I was all excited about it, right? Didn't know anybody there. So I drove across the country to Western Nebraska with my dad. I found this guy that said, "Oh yeah, I got a room. You can stay with me." And I wasn't making hardly anything as an intern. So I'm like, okay, I can't afford my own place. I'm going to, live with this guy in his upstairs. I had no idea who this guy was. So I drove all the way there in the middle of the desert in Western Nebraska in the middle of summer for this internship. I show up at this guy's house. I have no idea who he is. And he's like, "Hey kid, I'm going to the airport. I got to go to South Africa to film a TV show down there for 2 weeks." So I'm like, "Oh my God, okay." So I'm staying at this guy's house. He has no idea who we are. And he's leaving to go film a show in South Africa, right? So, again, like I said, just get your foot in the door, even if it's crazy, awkward, it'll work out. And it totally worked out. The guy's great, and we just hit it off. So, but yeah, just get your foot in.
You never know what opportunity is going to arise and what's going to come of it. And that one's that's pretty funny. Just like imagine showing up at some guy's house you don't know and he's like, "All right, I'm leaving already."
Yeah, I was like, what the heck's going on, Um, but yeah, 2 weeks later he came back and we're shooting prairie dogs in the summertime and having fun and whatever. So introduced me to all his buddies, right? And then it just kind of goes from there. He introduced me to his buddies, I pick their brain, and then you just keep learning. So so that's how it happened for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've spent your entire life in the outdoors, and what more could someone ask for, honestly? It's especially when you're so passionate about it and you get to spend all of this time around what you love. That's awesome.
Yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes too. Like, you guys are so young that you can screw up a couple times, it can still work out. And I took some chances, and I made some, maybe not the right decisions, but you learn from everything that you do, and they all work out in the end. So, but yeah, you guys are young. Just make some bad decisions. It's good for you,
So I might have asked this already without asking it directly, but about the advice for those looking into the outdoor industry. And I know you said just get your foot in the door. That seems to be your biggest piece of advice by far. Just get your foot in the door and run with it.
Yeah. There's a ton of opportunities out there. Learn what they are, and try to get in. You'll get in one way or another, and just start building that resume. And it's not going to happen, in the first year or two. It took me, I don't know what year I'm on, 13, 14 years or whatever to get where I'm at. And it gradually happens, and it's a marathon, right? Like your career, your life's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So, get in, prove yourself, be passionate about it, and it'll work out. So,
yeah. And if anyone takes this journey down into the outdoor industry, they'll have a chance to see most of the world, or all of the country, most of the world, like you have, which is pretty awesome as well, because getting to travel and see different things. Those few trips I had out west with Scott Gall and everyone, those were just eye-opening to me. So and we weren't even hunting or fishing, which are my two biggest passions. So I can't even imagine what a trip out west hunting or fishing would be like. That would be just unreal.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with Western New York, man. Like, hunting and fishing there is great. Obviously, the fishing's unbelievable, but there was just something out west, that hit it for me, with the trout rivers and and the big game animals and things like that. And, you know, who knows, I might end up back in Buffalo. I probably will sometime in my life, but yeah, exploring the West. I'm in the Midwest now, but there's some cool opportunities out there, you know.
So we'll get into the last few kind of questions here, and they're a little tricky, some of them, because you know you really got to think on them. But for you, what is your best memory in the outdoors? You've spent obviously your whole life doing it, so there's got to be a lot that stick out. But if you wanted to just shoot off a few that are really memorable to you.
I love this question. It's a tough question too, and I think the go-to thing is, oh, you know, shooting that 350-inch bull, or you know, shooting that kudu in South Africa, right? And don't get me wrong, those are unbelievable memories. But there's just so many of them. But you know, I sit back and I think about this. I thought about this question a little bit, and it's like, you know, I think those are obvious memories, but there's so many that you won't even think of, right? So, you know, I went to South Africa with my wife for our honeymoon, and we shot a bunch of things down there. But like, oh, that was great and everything. But you know, they have these when they cook at night. It's called a braai. It's like an outside barbecue type thing. They call it a braai, but you know, the memory of just like, and it sounds kind of cheesy, but sitting around that braai and that fire, looking at the Southern Cross in the sky, you know, in Southern Hemisphere, it's like, man, this is pretty cool, right? Or, you know, in Wyoming, yeah, I've shot a bunch of elk in Wyoming, but like when you're sitting around a campfire with buddies and you hear these elk bugling in the distance on the, you know, the Snowy Range Mountains there above Laramie, it's like, man, that's a pretty cool memory too, you know? And it's not like you're not shooting anything, you're not catching anything, right? Like, those big 6-pound smallies are awesome, but when you sit back and think about it, you know, those memories that make up that memory are sometimes bigger. You know what I mean? You know, I do a lot of bird hunting right now. I train Brittany's, and I do a lot of AKC field trials and things like that. So, you know, I shot 1 million pheasants in my life, but when you sit back and that one morning before work, you sneak out and you try to get into work by 8 o'clock, but your dog goes on point and everything works out, and you flush that giant rooster and it cackles in your face and you shoot that thing. It's like, dang, there's a couple of those that really stand out, you know, more so than that giant 350-inch bull that, you know, so it sounds kind of cheesy, but there's a lot of memories like that. Same thing with bass fishing, right? I caught 1 million bass in my life, but like, you know, that one that you throw that spinner bait up against that dock and that thing comes out and boils on, it's like, I'm not going to forget about that one, you know, because, you know, might have been only 3 or 4 pounds, but it's like, dang, that was a pretty sweet take, you know, I'm not going to forget about that one, but you forget about others, right? So those are the memories that I think of, you know, from time to time. It's not necessarily the obvious ones, you know. So.
And Gald and I talk about this a lot, and it's kind of the one, especially fishing, it's the ones that you didn't catch that you kind of remember more than anything, because if you know, as you know, you get him talking about fishing, you see his eyes roll in the back of his head, and he's just in his glory, just like spazzing out over fishing, because that's how he is, and it's awesome to have someone so freaking passionate about fishing. And he's telling me all these stories, like from when you two were fishing, you know, back in what year would that have been when you guys did the Rice Lake Open and all of that?
Was that 2004, 3, somewhere in there?
Okay. Yeah. So, and I had him in 2016. Okay, just to give everyone a frame of reference. And he will still talk about the fish that he lost with you in 2004, 2005, whenever. And it's like it just happened yesterday.
Oh yeah, I know exactly. I can see the dock right now. We lost that fish on, and talk about a time where I didn't say anything for like a half an hour. You know, I just kind of like, yeah, he was a little disappointed on that one, to say the least. You know, and but those are the memories I'm talking about, right? Like I remember that like it was yesterday, right? But I don't remember that next bass that we caught. You know, I remember exactly the point that we found on Rice Lake to win that Open. It was a super small area. I know exactly why we pulled into that area. I won't get into the details, but there's a story behind that that was pretty funny. You know, even after we won, you know, we had this huge check or whatever like that, and but we were laughing about the free pizza that we got for a year, you know, up in Canada. So we were going up there eating all this pizza and stuff like that every chance we had, and like that stuff is the memories, you know. It's not necessarily those giants, like I keep saying, you know. But you know.
It's just, you get to experience things when you're out in the outdoors that you're not going to get to see anywhere else. And just especially when it comes to hunting, if you've never had buck fever in your life, like, you don't know what adrenaline is until you have that feeling when or you're about to pull the trigger on a big buck, or even your first deer for that matter, and you're just shaking like a leaf afterwards and just like can't even control, just every emotion inside of you is just coming out right now. You're happy, you're just like all over the place, and it's a feeling that everyone, I think, needs to experience.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point too, it's like seeing that other people, right? So I'm at the point now where it's like I don't need to shoot another 100-inch deer, but taking somebody else to do that, or my kids or whatever like that, it's seeing that is the memories now for me, not necessarily doing it myself, and
Yeah.
see people absolutely freak out, it's hilarious. Um, but yeah, there's a ton of great memories. I can go on and on about different memories and things like that. But yeah, there's certainly a lot.
So now that we're kind of on this track right now of talking about hunting, I have to ask, where is your dream place to hunt? You said you've hunted in South Africa, you've hunted out west, you've hunted in New York, Pennsylvania. So where would be your dream place if you could pick?
Yeah, that's a tough question too. There's so much that I need to still do. There's a lot of species in North America I haven't gotten yet that I would like to pursue. But then there's some other countries that I haven't been to yet that I would like to. I like to go back to Africa and maybe hit up Namibia. Completely different environment, culture than South Africa. New Zealand looks like an unbelievable place to hunt. Wouldn't mind chasing those stag and tar and chamois around. Argentina is another place that looks unbelievable, both from the fishing standpoint and from the hunting standpoint. They have some stag hunting over there, some water buffalo hunting over there. And then that dove hunting just looks stupid with how many doves they have over there in Argentina. So, yeah, I would like to hit up, a little bit more of some international stuff, but there's still some things here I got to tackle in North America.
Yeah.
As well.
That list, just got to check them off.
Yeah, that's kind of my style. Like, I have buddies that live in the Midwest, Kansas, Iowa, and they pursue one species, and it's awesome. They kill great big deer, and I'm not saying anything bad about that. It's just their thing, right? And they have a whole wall full of whitetails. But my approach is kind of, doing the opposite, trying to check off as many species as I can. I think it's where I'm at right now. Who knows what tomorrow's going to bring, but checking off more and more species. I do know that it's gonna be tough to get a few of them in North America. The sheep are obviously the hardest to get.
Oh, for sure.
Just because of the demand and the price and all that stuff going on. But yeah, there's certainly a few other ones that I want to go after. Probably, I'm close on a Coos deer. I'll probably knock that one off. Hopefully, knock that one off next year.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
So how long was the flight when you went to South Africa? I got to ask.
Oh yeah. Where we fly? We flew out of Baltimore, and we flew into Dakar over there. So that flight was, God, it was like a total of like 20 hours or something. We were in the air, 18, 20 hours or something like that. And then from Dakar, you go to Johannesburg, and then we spent a night in Joburg there, and then you take a flight down to the Eastern Cape, a couple-hour flight down there. But it wasn't that bad. You're so excited to get over there. You get in that plane and you sit back and take some sleeping pills if you had to, and you pass out. And before you know it, you're in some third world country. So it wasn't that bad. I know a lot of people talk about that flight and how but for me it was just, you get more adrenaline. You're so excited to go there. But yeah, it's all part of it, so.
Exactly. So we talked about this last question quite a bit before the show, and I'm trying to get the listeners introduced to hunting a little bit more on this podcast, because that's also one of my passions. I'm not just a bass fisherman, believe it or not. So you've hunted all over the world, as we keep talking about, and out west is, for a lot of us New York East Coast guys, hunting out west is a dream of ours. So do you have any guidance on how to start hunting out west?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was in New York, I had no idea, right? Like even how to start. Didn't even know what an antelope was, a pronghorn out here. Um, and and when I got out here, I started to figure it out. Because it's handled completely different out west, right? So in New York, Pennsylvania, you can get an over-the-counter deer tag and go deer hunting and whatever. Out here, since there's such a high demand for hunting, you have to go through a draw process, a limited entry draw process for a lot of it out here. Um, so, um, so my advice would be to start looking into that draw process, understanding the different units and states and how they work, and they all work differently in certain states, and it can be confusing. So you can either study up on it, or there's consultants out there that could help you out on that as well. And I'll get into that in a second. But long story short, be persistent, put in early, grow your points, and it won't be long until you're hunting some premium Western units for some serious trophy animals, right? So, how it is broken up. So you got states like Colorado. It's a point applications, a point state, right? So once I have, say, 10 points, I know I'm hunting that year in Colorado. And then you have other states like Wyoming, where they give out, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like 20%, 25% of the tags are to a random draw, right? So you build your points, but yet you also have a chance in there, right? So you keep your fingers crossed for Wyoming. And then you have states like New Mexico, where it's a draw process, but it's just luck of the draw, right? So I love that state because it doesn't matter if, my buddy Jack was applying for 20 years, we all have the same odds going into New Mexico, right? And that state actually has been very, very good to me over the last few years. I've drawn some really good tags in New Mexico, and it's just luck of the draw. I drew a New Mexico 2C mule deer tag. I think there was like 2 tags given out in the whole unit. I drew one of them. Last year I hunted an oryx down there in New Mexico, which was a very tough draw as well. If you don't know what an oryx is, it's an African species that they introduced to New Mexico. It's called the gemsbuck in Africa, but it's a really cool species to hunt. So the draw process is different for each state. And some states are better than others, depending on what your goals are. It can be confusing. There are resources out there, a few of them. So, for example, my job I had at Cabela's Outdoor Adventures, there's a tags application booking service through them as well, called Worldwide Trophy Tags now. Those guys would help you out for sure. With understanding the draw process. There's another company called The Draw, owned by Jordan Christensen, my buddy there. He would be more than willing to help you out as well in understanding the Western application process. But the number one thing is be persistent, get your name in the hat, and grow those points, and grow that portfolio. And you can manage it to where it's like, okay, I know I'm not going to hunt for the next 3 or 4 years, but in 3 years, I can draw that Iowa archery tag, hunt big whitetails in Iowa. Okay, 4 years. Now I'm in the draw, for my antelope tag in Wyoming. 5. So you can plan it out. So each year you could go on a really good premium hunt, and then 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and then you're going on those, extremely limited draw elk hunts and moose hunts and sheep hunts and things like that as well. But get in young, right? Like some of these states you can apply at an extremely young age, and a lot of these states they cater towards the youth as well. So start building those points. I wish I was building points when I was 12 years old.
Yeah, I got to get going on that for sure. So real quick, kind of just to wrap up the show, I know we got to get going here, but could you just tell me a quick little story about that giant bull that you shot? Where was it? And just all of that, because that's going to be the icon, the picture for the podcast is you with your giant bull. So I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, so that bull is pretty special. So when you think of the draw process, like I said, I've had some luck, right? I've drawn some decent tags, and it's just been luck. And that one was complete luck. So this is a hilarious story. So my son, so my wife was pregnant, and the Nebraska elk draw was coming up, right? So there are elk in Nebraska, and there are huge elk in Nebraska because they eat corn, right? Um, and the draw was coming up. The chances of me drawing that tag was like, I don't know, 10%, 12% or something like that. But you don't put in for it. My wife's pregnant. It's like, I still got to put in for it because Nebraska did start a point system where, it's like, so if I have 4 points, I get 4 tickets in the hat. If you have 2 points, you get 2 tickets in the hat. So it's not like Colorado point system, but you still had to put in, and I wasn't expecting it. I was just putting in to get my point. But I drew that tag, and it's a once in a lifetime tag. So it's not like, oh, this is a once in a lifetime. It's truly a once in a lifetime tag. Like, I can never draw that tag again. Well, I'm not a resident anymore anyways, but even if I was a resident, I could never draw that tag again. So that draw posted, and I drew that thing, and I was like, I didn't know what to do because I was so excited, but yet I knew I had a baby due like on opening day of that hunt, So I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I drew that tag. Everybody's upset at me because I was only living in Nebraska for like 2 years at a time. People have been putting in for years and years for that tag. Everybody's all upset at me. Now I got to deal with my wife and this baby coming. And I'm like, oh my. But my wife's awesome. She's totally understanding. She hunts and fishes along with me. So the rule was just, get that baby here, then you can go hunting, right? So it all worked out. So every doctor's appointment, I was like, hey, that baby looks pretty big in there, huh? It's probably going to come early, don't you think, Doc? And so we're joking around the whole time. So it all worked out. My baby was born, totally healthy. Everything was great. I went up there a few days after that, and was hunting up on the Pine Ridge for those big giant bulls up there. Unbelievable hunt. Those elk don't get pressured. There's hardly any tags. They come out of that corn. They screaming their heads off. And man, what an opportunity. And I shot that bull. The bull was 350, but
casually 350.
There's bigger bulls in there, just an unbelievable hunt. So just how that hunt went down, we got into our area up on this ridge, and we parked the side by side. We went in there on, and as soon as we turned it off, there was elk, cows mewing and elk bugling right around us. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're right here, right in the middle of them. They don't even care about this 4-wheeler, and that sun was coming up, and it was the slowest sunrise of all time. It felt like it was hours, but it was only probably like 10 minutes before that sun came up. And that sun's coming up, and I see this giant bull in front of us, and it's, it's just, I'm ready to shoot, crosshairs are on him, and I noticed that he's broken on the one side quite a bit, right? Like probably has, I don't know, 40 inches broken off on the one side below his G5. And I was devastated. I'm like, oh my God, I got this. My child's born. I got to get home. Here's my opportunity. Now he's broken. I got to hunt more. It's just like one of those things. And, I bugled at that thing, and another elk bugled behind us and came charging. I'll never forget it. Up on the Pine Ridge there, all these huge pines, and this elk is just coming and coming and coming. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that elk I ended up shooting was fighting the other bull at like 20 yards in front of us. Now, granted, it was a rifle hunt. I could have killed either one of them with a bow, obviously, but they're fighting in front of us. And I'm like, what, this is nuts. So they finally break apart at 60 yards, and I shoot them. But it was hilarious because I was practicing all summer long because I had this once in a lifetime tag at the range. So I'm like reloading. I'm trying to find the right round. My gun wasn't, performing the way I wanted it to with certain rounds I was reloading and things like that. And I spent like hundreds of dollars at the range and finding the perfect round. And I'm shooting this thing freehand at 60 yards, and I was practicing all summer long at, long range and all this stuff. So yeah, certainly an unbelievable hunt, with my child being born right on opening day, right around opening day as well. So that one was that was one that I'll remember for a while, you know.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. I've wanted to hear that story ever since I saw you post that picture, because that thing's just a monster. And I'll put a link for his M's Instagram in the bio. Click on it and go check out. He's got the picture of his elk up there. It's pretty awesome. But I think that's a good point to end the show. I'd like to say thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us. And I hope we can inspire a few kids to get into the outdoor industry now that they realize it's not as big of a challenge as they might have thought before. But
yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any questions or need help with anything, again, like pay it forward, right? So I was mentored by a lot of people. I'm willing to help out, ask any questions. I'll be able to answer them for you and help you steer you in the right direction if you're looking at, in the outdoor industry or tags applications or just anything about hunting out in the Midwest or West. I can help you out. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and look for episode number 27 of the JD Outdoors podcast, and have a good day, everyone. All right. See you, Adam.
Thanks, Jordan.